he spoke the solemn words which the bridegroom says to the bride, I here betroth you as my bride in perfect faith, which for all time will be kept the virgin until our marriage feast in heaven will be celebrated with great rejoicing. My daughter, from now on you must undertake without protest all the works which I command you, armed with the power of faith. She resisted because she wanted to remain in herself. She was very contemplative, and this is where Jesus calls her out of herself. In fact, he took her to heaven. She saw heaven and thought she was going to stay there. And when she came back to her body, she was extremely disappointed, and she did not really want to go out into the world. But Jesus said, I will be with you in a new way. You will be my word to other people. You will teach I will be with you. You will teach in my behalf. So this is armed with the power of faith. So this is really, the vision had disappeared, but afterward the maiden could always was seeing this engagement ring on her finger, although it was as the stigmata, it was invisible to other people. So this particular engagement ring, as we could call it, was the beginning of her apostolic life. She left her cell and began to visit various parts of the different cities, and she mesmerized hundreds and hundreds of people. She usually traveled in a group of her spiritual directors, 30 people. Now, it wasn't always easy because many people disliked Catherine. She was a mystic, and she was very famous in her day. So at times, she had to put up with a lot of people. Even some of her directees would leave her because they found her, like Jesus, they found her too much. So we have Catherine being empowered by this engagement ring. And we're celebrating the fact that Catherine, again, is following the Lord's will. We don't always want to follow the Lord. He's saying, out of your solitude, out of your cell, I call you to help your brothers and sisters. And this is why one of the main themes in Catherine's life, the call from self-centeredness to a Christ-like love, charity. And this is what her gift to us today is, to renew our charity for the Lord. The more charity we have, the less lust we have. The more charity we have, the happier we are. When we get away from self-centeredness, this is her key message. And it began with, as I said, this began with the cross. She didn't really want to leave herself. But we see Catherine embracing God's will. And that's for all of us. Over here we have something very interesting. We have the bag in which carried the head of St. Catherine from Rome to Siena. And this was in the late 1300s. Her body is in Rome, but the people in Siena wanted part of her body, and they received her head. This is the different veils that she used to wear. And this is something very curious. This is the hair shirt that she wore. Now, it may seem strange to us to wear a hair shirt, but the saints, they wore this out of penance. It would be a little reminder every day to be uncomfortable, so they would think more about when their flesh acted up or temptations came. So she wore this hair shirt. This is her part of her staff, just the top of her staff, that she'd walk around Siena. Siena is very hilly and stones and very uneven. So she would need a staff. This is a lovely lantern that Catherine would use at night when she visited the sick. This is a little bottle that she would put a scented perfume in here, and when she visited the sick, she would pray over them and scent them cheer them up with something that smelled beautiful. So we have here, actually in this cell, that she did not want to leave. And what's so very powerful, but how can any of this, how can I work for saving souls? The Lord called her out to save souls. And all things are possible for God, who has created everything from nothing. I know that you saved this from humility, but you must know that in these days of pride has grown monstrously among men. I send out simple men. Catherine was a simple woman, but God gave her this divine wisdom and trained her. Therefore, the Lord said, my dear daughter, you will humbly do my will, for I will never fail you. On the contrary, I'll come to you as often as before. I will guide you. And from that day, she left the cell and resumed meals with her father and her mother. This is the new life that she entered into. And of course, then, after she left this particular cell, she learned to build a cell in her soul that became her refuge. And this is the teaching for each of us. We may not be able to live in solitude or even want to, but we build a cell in our heart, and that's where we find Jesus among the crowd. And no matter how busy we are, we have his peace and union with him.